Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Four Lads Rangers midweek live podcast. Myself, Stevie Clifford, and Kenny Stewart. Kenny, good evening, mate. How are you? So it's some day it's been roasted.
Aye, well, Michael Beale called Ibrox a cauldron. It's been like a furnace in here all day, mate. I am absolutely sweltered. Got caught with the sun as well. Lovely day, wasn't
It was a lovely day. You should build yourself a wee podcast dungeon and then forget all about the air conditioning like I have. That'll help you.
Got
Let's get
140
straight.
degrees in there.
Oh, mate, honestly, it's like being in Vegas in this room. I tell you. Right. Let's get straight into it. Last night's podcast, we wanted to touch on it a wee bit. I'm certainly not happy with it. I think sometimes when you podcast, folks, you can, you know when you've had a really good show, you can come off it and you'll be quite happy with everything. I came off of that last night, probably just like I felt during the game watching it. This wasn't great. Swore too many times, like I like doing, and I don't like doing, and honestly, at times I didn't really know what to say, Kenny. It is honest. It is honest reaction. We aren't here to cheerlead. We aren't here to, there was a couple of comments. I think that the podcast is one of the most commented ever in our whole time here. 12,500 people watched it since we posted it live. 5,500 were watching it live. 181 comments on it last night, all to do with Russell Martin, which is pretty incredible. Looking back on the podcast last night, Kenny, what I would say is that it's emotional, it's raw because we're supporters. We've been going to the game for God knows how long, and we have to be honest. As I said, we're not here to cheerlead. We're not here to. I think it would be disingenuous to sit and try and tell all our viewers, "Oh, it was all right. We were few. Aye, they had a few chances and things like that." But it's got to be honest, and it's difficult. I watched it back last night, and I wasn't entirely impressed with it, but it was it was indeed honest. If it was, I think we were all a bit shell shocked. I certainly was at the manner of the performance and chances and that, which we'll talk about as we go on.
Shell shocked is the best word. I said to you before we come on there, it was a little bit morbid, wasn't it? And it was. We were. But you're right, we were all a bit dumbfounded. We were all a bit speechless. Didn't really know what to say about that performance last night because you're absolutely right. We're not here to sit there and sugarcoat anything. We're not going to tell, people what they've watched is not what they've watched. So it wasn't pretty, that's for certain. However, here we are, nearly 24 hours later. Wee bit perkier, wee bit chirpier, so we'll see how we go.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think we made enough of, or maybe didn't give the team credit overall for what they have achieved. Getting past Panathinaikos and getting past Pilsen, who I think we made look pretty ordinary. I thought that Panathinaikos, to get past them, was certainly a fantastic result, and I still stand by that. And there's a bit more positives. I rewatched the game, and yeah, there's some things that we can talk about, Kenny. But overall, I think that I said at the start of this season that if we were to get past Panathinaikos in the next stage and get to that, I would consider that to be a very good result for us, considering where we are, the strength of the job ahead of us, and everything else. And that maybe got a wee bit lost last night, and what we're going to discuss as well. But the team have done exceptionally well to get here. They've taken past Panathinaikos 3-1 on aggregate and dealt with it really well. Went 1-0 behind and came back and done it. Last night was a job that was done at 3-0. Were they a bit lackadaisical and everything? We can discuss that, yes. But at the point they went 1-0 down, they then went and killed it off, didn't they, by getting that equaliser? And we didn't maybe comment on that last night because that little spell they had, enough for them to score, was actually quite decent. Actually 15 minutes or so in there, and then they stopped, which is the biggest problem we have, and finished strongly in a way which we can control the game and things. I thought after we conceded again, we just controlled it. Probably should have scored and killed it off. And maybe wasn't enough credit given overall for the situation. Now, you can break it down and say we were lucky and things, and at times we were, and I think that's fair to critique. But to get through those two rounds and get through the tie, to bag that kind of €5 million like they have, £4 million odd pounds, whatever it is, for getting to this stage, is not money to be sniffed at, and hopefully will help us bring in somebody else after Mendy, who should arrive in the next couple of days.
Yeah, and that is it exactly. If you stop and consider the size of the task at hand, the rebuild that we're facing, then you have to say that getting past Panathinaikos in the first, or the second qualifying round, as it were, but in the first instance, is really impressive for a literal, almost like a makeshift side where the players barely know each other and stuff like that. Yeah, I think you've kind of caught it a little bit there when you said that the tie was almost as good as finished when you go over there last night, 3-0 up. However, Russell Martin did say it, and he was right, that it's a massive learning curve. You can't just switch off in any game at Rangers because, with all respect to some of the players, they're coming up several levels, a few levels anyway, to play for a club that is expected to perform and win every single game. So that's all that I'm kind of looking at in terms of the positives. That last night was probably the worst performance we've had under Russell Martin. I thought we were really poor. Gave the ball away just in dangerous areas so often, and just got almost kind of caught like a rabbit in the headlights at times, where we didn't really seem to be capable of playing with any cohesion at all. That's what worried me last night. Perspective, as I say, a day later, we're looking at it and you're saying, well, they've given themselves an absolutely glorious opportunity to find themselves in the Champions League. And if they, I'm not saying they will here, so don't say I think I do, because I genuinely think Bruges will be big favourites to get through the tie. However, what an opportunity for a new squad with a new manager to really learn and prosper and become an even better side by learning against the very, very best. Will we take a doing or two if we have to get there? Yeah, of course. But everybody does, apart from the very elite in that competition. And that's kind of the positive that I've got from it, that we have European football guaranteed till basically the end of January, I think it is, beginning of February. And we have given ourselves a literal free hit, a jackpot for a start, but for the opportunity for this new squad to really grow and learn, and probably learn the hard way. But what an opportunity it is.
It certainly is. And the players, I don't like calling it an achievement, because I believe that Rangers should be there. I believe that's where we should be at a very minimum. But to do it this early overall has been certainly been a good result. Looking at the match last night, Kenny, we don't need to go into it as such where we go over it, but having rewatched it, which was an interesting watch to say the least, there was a lot of things actually that Rangers did okay. There were several opportunities in the first half where we just were a pass away from it being right. But very quickly, one of the biggest issues I found, we go from a promising position straight back to the centre-back or Jack Butland in 2 passes, and that needs to stop. So that was one of the big things that I took away from last night, having rewatched it. And the other thing is, as well, and I'll bang on about this, we need our 9 to function. Last night, Cyril Dessers didn't function in the slightest. Against Dundee, he didn't function in the slightest. And our biggest issue has been that our 9 hasn't functioned so far, and he's not been able to get into games. And it doesn't matter if it's Danilo, it doesn't matter if it's Dessers. Danilo came on last night and done what we think is the bare minimum, right? And that should be just getting, linking up, playing. But we looked so much better when Danilo came on because he was doing the simple things. Now, he lost it a couple of times. It wasn't a flawless performance, but what I'm getting at here is that these are the fine margins. In the first half, Cyril Dessers should have put Ant-Man through twice. Once he scuffed it, and the other one he played it straight to the centre-back. Now, these are 5-10-yard passes. And it's all right us saying and criticising tactics and criticising things that are happening through systems and everything else. But we should be good enough, Kenny, to expect our players, no matter what it is, to be able to defend and pick up markers, to be able to pass it 5-10 yards and do the basics. Systems are great and everything else, and they have the maximum impact. I get all that. Basic things are not being done. There was times last night, as I said, with Dessers, where it's the through ball, holding the ball up, feeding it back, making the best choices, and we're not doing it. And what happens is we very quickly either go straight back to the start or we get turned over and teams are onto us straight away. These are big issues that even the bare minimum from Danilo made us look 100 times better for that 10, 15-minute spell, because I thought we really played a lot better during that time.
Russell Martin has said it. It's, he's talked, and I know he mentioned in the presser last night, it was not the risks that it was concerning him. What we're doing a lot of the time, I feel, is that because the players are not 100% with the system, if you want to call it that they're playing safe at times, that they'll keep the ball for keeping the ball's sake, and that's leading to far too many backward passes. What Danilo did last night that Cyril Dessers didn't manage to do for the time that he was on was just get into an area where he could receive the ball with a little bit of space. Dessers didn't manage that last night at all. I think he just really struggled on the night, which is sometimes it happens, mate. But I said it last night. I just feel that's kind of what you do see a lot of the time with Russell Martin, with Cyril Dessers, I beg your pardon, is that he reverts to type. You'll get a good game out of him, 2 bad games. You'll get 2 good games, 2 bad games. It's just kind of what you get out of him. And that's no disrespect to the guy, because he's done a decent enough job over the piece in terms of goal scoring. But Danilo did make a difference with his link-up play and stuff like that. You're right, having seen most of it back today, we're not that far away from looking a lot better than we did last night, put it that way. Have we got a pile of work to do? Absolutely. But we are aware of this, that it is about being brave and attacking in a manner that you will take those risks to get your direct opponent out of the game, that will create the other space for other players. And that's where we're a work in progress. It's very, very early days, and we have to look at a situation here where, whether we like it or not, Stevie, patience is required. Now, we've seen our group chat today, and it's kind of nuts, isn't it? There is a lot of debate going on, and good debate and fair debate, and everybody's got a valid point in it. However, for me, just at this moment in time, I just look at it and think you've got 6 games there that we've played. We've not been great. I'm not going to say we have, because we haven't, but there's been signs of progress at times. Last night, as I say, I just felt that because we had that cushion, I think there was an awful lot of safe passes and backward passes that actually just led to our own downfall, because we were just, some of the passes were horrific, actually, and that's what kind of caused us our issue, I think.
Thanks, Natalie. I'm taking that as a compliment. But yes, it is a litre bottle of water, because it's absolutely roasting in here. And that's what happens when you don't get an aircon or a fan or anything. So I'm fixing it, don't worry. But yes, lots of water. Kenny, it isn't sugarcoating last night. I think what I'm trying to do is bring a wee bit of context into it. Listen, they had 27 shots. 8 of those shots were deemed as big chances. Their XG was, I think, 3.26 by memory, second only to Napoli, I think, who beat us 3-0 over in Italy in a game I was actually at. This isn't sugarcoating it. It's trying to bring a wee bit of fair context to what they had achieved last night in going through the tie overall. But it's glaringly obvious that players are uncomfortable in the system of what we're doing. We spoke about it last night. John Souttar, to me, makes really silly decisions at times when he gets the ball from goal kicks, which ironically, we look really, it's almost like a corner for the away team or the other team, because we get it and we don't knock it about patiently. At times we then force it. Like Souttar will go on a run last night. He done it twice in the first half last night, where he went on a run and somebody picked his pocket and they were in, because we move as one loses it, and all of a sudden it's like you're straight on that remaining 3 defenders. I think a lot of this has got to do with better choices of what we're trying to do, because a lot of what they were creating last night all came from us being slack on the ball. And this slackness, it needs to stop quickly. Otherwise, your 5 big chances against Motherwell, I think Dundee had 3 big chances as well. They hit the post twice in the first half, albeit I do think one was offside. 8 chances last night. We cannot continue to play every game on the skin of our teeth. We can't do that. You can't live like that, because eventually, and the biggest threat I think we all feel is that somebody will be ruthless and take those chances, whether it is Bruges or whether or not it's Celtic at the end of the month. I think that's where a lot of the uncertainty and uneasiness comes. That level of performance last night, as much as we've congratulated the team for getting through and tried to add that slight bit of context, was miles off it. Absolutely dreadful. It was kamikaze football, because the ball was moving like a pinball at times as well, which I'm going to come to in a second. But that being better on the ball and making better choices, that needs to quicken very quickly, because what we're doing is actually leading other teams straight to where we don't want it to be, and where we're getting turned over more or less between the halfway line and our own goal, our box, it means that we're turned on every single time, and we can't keep doing that, because somebody eventually, and as I said, I think that's where most of the anxiety is coming from, will start taking their chances.
Yeah, of course they will, because if you're gifting 27 shots at goal, sooner or later a good side will take right good care of you, Stevie, and we can't allow that to continue. And as I say, last night for me was certainly the poorest I've seen us under Russell Martin. What I feel in this instance, what you're talking about there, is that there's far too much of Jack Butland and the two centre halves having the ball. And for me, that kind of suggests to me that the midfield has got to be tweaked, which we've talked about since day one of the season. The shape of the midfield doesn't look quite right. They need to create more space for themselves in the middle of the park and be allowed to turn, and then we can actually see what this new brand of football is meant to be all about. I don't understand why the two centre halves have got so much of the ball, but it does allude to the fact that the system isn't quite working as yet, and that's what that. I'm no tactical expert, Stevie. This is all I'm from what I'm seeing, but I do feel that the midfield has got to get closer to those two to be allowed to turn and get forward, because there's just far too much backward passing all the time, and you're not going anywhere. Therefore, and again, Russell Martin said this, that they were playing with basically 4 up top, Pilsen last night, and they just squeezed us in, and we couldn't get out a lot of the time. So how you fix it is not my job, mate. It's Russell Martin's job, and he has to fix it quickly, because if it persists like this, we are absolutely going to get put on the end of a hiding. We are, because you cannot gift 100 and odd shots in 6 games. It's just crazy, and it does need fixed. And for me, it's one of those things that I don't know how often I could go through watching a game like that again last night, because coming on to pods like that last night, it was terrifying. We were like, what are we going to say? So no thanks, just please start getting a little bit of cohesion about the attacking play that we're trying to put in progress, and I think we'll start to see, as I say, the signs of progress and the shoots of growth that we need to see.
Well, it needs to happen quickly. We can't have nights like last night. A lot of people have made the fact that, or drawing comparisons with a lot of the comments and things like that come from a position of, I think, anger towards the fact that nobody really wanted Russell Martin in the first place. And I think that's a bit of a kind of outlier in what we're doing, because he's not popular, Kenny. I think that's fair. But a lot of the comments, I think, are quite difficult, because when we talk about Steven Gerrard as a comparison, Steven Gerrard drew 2 of his first league games. We did qualify for Europe. He's similarly done what Russell Martin has actually done, but we've seen an instant uplift. However, the instant uplift was from that situation where it had Graham Murray, Jimmy Nicholl, etc., towards the end of a season where we had been beat 5-0 to lose the league at Parkhead, etc., the uplift was always going to be there. I think the biggest issue Russell Martin has is that he's not wanted, and that's coming through in people's comments. I don't like the kind of atmosphere in it. I feel like it's almost already where Michael Beale is and was towards the end of his time. Philip Clement, and 6 games in, I feel that's really difficult. Pitchforks are most definitely out on social media for Russell Martin. And it puts me in a really difficult position, Kenny, because when we come and do this as a podcast, you want to be honest and you want to have your say, but we got into trouble of people for going in too early on Philippe Clement, which was after a year. Too early on Michael Beale. I actually said the night before Michael Beale got sacked, I said that was it, done for me. That was the final straw, and that was too early for some people as well. And people are already asking 45 minutes at Motherwell at half-time, wanted him out. And it's went full circle right now, and the irony to get him out is massive. That's the biggest thing for Russell Martin. We know that reaction and things can change quickly, but the fact that we are here so early for him and the fan base seems to feel as much, and yes, social media doesn't speak for match days and things like that, but if it was an indication of where we are right now, it's a difficult position for Russell Martin to be in even this early.
Yeah, the knives are out already. They are. So, and everybody at the club has to be aware of that. That very, very few people, I'm going to say no one, and that might not be the case, but I don't know of anyone that's convinced with what they're watching at the moment. I mean, we're not going to sit here and tell lies to anybody. My issue is that, and I mentioned this last week, so I apologise if I'm repeating myself, but what we're trying to do as a football club at this minute in time is break a culture that's been in our football club for a number of years. And I do genuinely believe that there's a kind of feeling or an acceptance at Ibrox, at Rangers now, that we are second best and we can't win that league a lot of the time. And that's not acceptable for us as fans. So as fans, what do we do? Do we look at the results and the performances in 6 games, or do we actually have to, understand? I'm not saying accept, because that's not going to happen, but do we have to understand what the football club, forget Russell Martin for a moment, just the football club is trying to do, and whether we like that or not, that's going to take time. And the people that have bought our football club are very clever people, and I genuinely believe if they've got to pull the trigger on this, they wouldn't hesitate. I don't believe for a second they would arse about with something as vital and as important as your head coach. However, again, to kind of add to that, we have to be reasonable and say that Russell Martin hasn't had the best of starts. We understand. But he has got us to where we need to be in the playoffs. The domestic side, the 2 games we've played in the league, we've been rotten. There's no getting away from that. And we have to improve. But that gets, again, an addition of we need to be slightly more patient than than social media, for more than anything else, is showing. And I do, as I say, I'm not going to sit here and suggest that anybody that wants him gone already is wrong. We don't know yet. We genuinely don't know. But I think people making their minds up after 6 games is just too soon. You've got to give the man at least the opportunity to get his team built in this transfer window before just turning and saying cut him off. You need to allow the guy to build his side. That's where I'm at with it. And I understand that'll probably take a lot of stick for saying that, but we're going to have to be patient, Stevie. We are. We don't have any choice on it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think it's like before where the board would listen. I don't think that this board, the Americans in charge, will be swayed by what fan opinion is. Patrick Stewart's already proven that he does not be swayed by what fans want or what fans' opinion is. He will be doing what he thinks for the football club, regardless of how we react. I think that already it's a difficult position, but I think that things can change quickly. Somehow we need to turn up and make it work. And something I noticed last night, Kenny, I wanted to touch upon this again before we kind of move on and talk about, the weekend and things to come, that it's scary how much we don't control the football during the 90 minutes. You look at the team last night, 7 of that team that started, I believe I'm right in saying that, it was certainly 8 that finished it, were not Russell Martin signings, and we don't control the ball. It's like a pinball. It just bounces. There's no control. That control only really came on after Danilo's link up. After then we scored, Rothwell then came on. We got a bit better on the ball, but then suddenly it stops. As much as we've already spoken about this is a mentality thing from the players as well, because when they did up it last night, like, for example, the last couple of minutes, we were 3-on-1 and 4-on-2, etc. Loads of times going through. The amount of times a better ball across the face of goal to Danilo would have resulted in an easy chance was scary. And it's ridiculously bad that we're a professional football team that can't do the simple things right. Now, we can all blame Russell Martin and everything else. I get it completely. And if people want that, that's up to them. Then that's okay for them to say that. But for me, where's the desire? Where's the mentality? Where's the hunger? We're getting beat here at 2-1. We want to keep that unbeaten run going, or whatever it is that you might say. We want to go and get a second goal. Where's the hunger for that? Because it looked half-paced. It looked at times to me like there was no real desire. We're through. It's enough. That's it. I wanted to see a wee bit more, and that's the kind of thing that I want to start seeing in this team going forward under Russell Martin. That desire, that hunger. There was times we lost the ball last night and we're trotting back. We don't look like a team that really is bursting our gut. That would be the most interesting thing to ask Russell Martin for me, is the application and the mentality on the pitch. Right? He spoke about it before. I don't see the improvements in that side of it that I really want to see, and we need to see that quickly.
He was the one that turned around and said to Stevie that his team will work harder and run faster, all these things, and we have not seen that at all. And that's more of a concern for me than the performances at the minute, because I'm hoping that, and it's hope, I'm not expecting, I'm hoping the performances will get better. But we have been laboured, slow, half-arsed at times. I don't think there's any doubt in that. And my answer is I don't know why that is, but that's up to Russell Martin to address, because he is the one that turned around and said that his team would do these things, and they haven't done that yet, and that needs fixed more than anything else for me, because I think with the quality of player we have, maybe with the exception of Panathinaikos that we've played so far, I thought that was fairly even in terms of the quality of player between the two sides. We've been better than every side that we've played, and we haven't worked harder than anybody else. Motherwell worked harder than us, Dundee worked harder than us, Victoria Pilsen definitely worked harder than us last night, and that is a concern. And what's annoying me is that it might be a new style of play, Stevie, but the formation isn't actually that different from what most of these guys that have been here before is actually. It's not that different, is it? I mean, it really isn't. We're still playing basically in a 4-3-3. It's just slightly tweaked, and it's not a new sport they're playing. It's still football. You should still be able to pass a ball 10 yards. You should still understand that if the ball's taken off your teammate, you go and track in, you're going cover, you should still track back when you lose the ball, all these things. And that's the fundamental basics that concern me last night more than anything else. And I've seen a lot of, comments on tonight, and they're also, from what I said, I knew I'd take a bit of stick. People saying, well, what happens if we lose, at the weekend? Have we just got to take it? And I understand that. I'm not saying, this is just my opinion. I'm not suggesting for a minute that I'm right. I just feel that at this minute in time, the job that we have on as a football club is just enormous, Stevie. Yeah, it is enormous. And with new owners, new manager, new sporting director, new players, the fan base needs to be understanding of that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that we need to be patient. I'm not suggesting that I'm right. I'm just saying that that's just the kind of way I'm looking at it. That I don't know what else we're going to do. We can't just sack managers 3 and 4 times a season. That's not going to happen. So if we sack Russell Martin and 6 games in, and the next guy's come in and he does the same, we're sacking him as well. We're on a roundabout, as I said last night, Stevie. We are on a roundabout and we can't get off it. At some point, we need to get off and view the world with a bit of clarity. And time will tell if fans will allow it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly will. Kenny, we'll talk about Bruges in a minute and what really needs to change for Rangers to have a chance. A few comments, we see quite a lot as well. That mob got across the city, got up and running quick enough under Ange. That mob across the city, as you want to call it, lost 3 of their first 7 games and drew another one. We beat them in that 7-2 Philippe Holander's header at Ibrox. So it wasn't all plain sailing under Ange Postecoglou. He won 2 games 6-0 against Dundee and St Mirren possibly, which really helped him get time-ish. But Celtic fans wanted him strung up. I'm pretty sure they went out early doors in the Champions League to, I want to say Copenhagen or something like that. Michelin, right, okay, fair enough. So it wasn't all plain sailing. And I mean, even, it was interesting listening, actually. There are a couple of things that happened today. First of all, Andy Halliday talking about tactics, which we can come to. But Marcus Rashford talked about Man United and talked about the constant upheaval, constantly changing managers. Anytime you got settled in, it started all over again, and etc., etc. And that is undoubtedly a massive problem for where we are. And as much as I understand people's kind of, attitude of where we are now with Russell Martin, the way I see it is just, I don't see any way that we're sacking him quickly. Russell Martin had 7 interviews for this job. He met with Patrick Stewart, Kevin Felwell multiple times. He then met with Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marathi twice, I think, 2 interviews with them for him to get this job. So I don't think that that's going to happen like people might want it. It would take an absolute disaster, getting beat by Alloa, getting beat by Bruges, getting beat by St Mirren, getting beat by Celtic, because then I think it would be absolutely toxic in results and it not looking like anything going our way. I think the reaction by the support at that point would dictate a lot, but it would be a real question of where, because at the Celtic game, all the American dignitaries will be over for that. All the investors, everybody, they're all booked in to appear at that. So that's going to be an interesting reaction, and nobody wants that to happen, Kenny. But looking forward to Bruges, Alloa at the weekend, which is more of an interest, obviously, because they're first. How do we need to fix this? It's such a leading question because there's a lot to be fixed. But, personnel, you've got Eagleman, hopefully, Asgard, hopefully, Mikey Moore will be in the squad, which is great as a young man, 18-year-old. It's finally registered. It's a lot to ask of him, but he's an exciting player. What do we need to, what's the major issues to fix, Kenny? How does he make them better in a couple of days of training, or give them the confidence that they can go and knock about the ball, they can go and play? How do we fix that? Is it possible? I'm not sure it is, but what I would like to see, obviously results aside, that's a given. I want to see a wee bit of progression every single game. I don't expect them to look like Barcelona on prime, Messi and everybody else. What I would like to see is some progression, smarter on the ball, take our time a wee bit more, because when it's bouncing about, it is really difficult to control it, which I noticed last night was really obvious. Make better choices on the ball. These are things that I think are things that we can do, and the players need to take responsibility for.
Yeah, the players need to understand where they're playing, Stevie. First, that's the first thing they need to understand. If they turn up against Alloa and they're, with all respect to them, that we're standing there watching Jack Butland pass it to Giga, who passes it to Suter, who passes it to Yefty, who passes it back, and they just piss about with it for 3 or 4 minutes, that's people are just not going to take that, mate. So that's they need to understand that's we want to see good, attractive football. We want to see us go and play like Rangers, never mind Barcelona. You know what I mean? That's what I would say. That we need to see a level of performance on Saturday that is miles and miles higher than what we've seen already. That shouldn't be too difficult. Alloa are a first division, a League One side, and you know, come on. There's levels to this game. They show the level you are at, and go and play the game. Bruges is an entirely different one, and we'll get to that. But the three boys that you're talking about, he's been kind of starved of them. Mikey Moore, Eagleman, and Asgard. I actually believe will make really quite a big difference to the team. I genuinely do. I think we know that how good Eagleman can be. We know that behind the scenes that they're talking about the other two boys like they are proper special players. So let's see how good they are, and hopefully they'll both get plenty of game time. But the Bruges game is where the crunch is going to be, mate, because that they are tough games in a high stake environment. So they have to be aware. That's what I would say. Players I'm talking about, never mind Russell Martin. The players need to be aware of where they're playing, who they're playing for, and at the level they need to attain and keep and sustain. That's what I would say. But as I say, time will tell, because I genuinely, going back to what you said there a minute ago about the owners, I genuinely, I think the owners said it when they were announced that in the Blue Room or at Ibrox, they said this is not a short-term thing, we're here long-term. And I think they might well be aware when you have Philip Clement coming out last week and saying that John Bennett and the board were telling him cheers, pal. Probably is as well. But when Philip Clement is saying that Bennett and the board were telling him at the start of last season they kind of understood that they weren't going to win anything, that's the culture of the football club that we need to change. That's the owners telling the manager. Now, that just drip feeds right through the football club, Stevie, and that's what we need to change. And that's where I think the new owners will be very, very patient with this. Not stupid patient, as I say. I don't believe for a minute if they feel they need to, make decisions or pull a trigger. Marathi said that, didn't he? That we won't hesitate to make decisions if we need to, but that's when you'll see us. So, as I say, I just feel at this moment in time, it's, as you say, the pitchforks are out, Stevie, and I'm just calling for a little bit of calm. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get it. I think calling for calm amongst the support is long gone. Look, long and short of it is that losing on Saturday would be pretty unforgivable, and probably too much for a lot of the support if they aren't there already, which a lot of them are. I think that we need to see progress in games. Like, we're not suddenly going to turn up and batter teams. I think that's realistic, but we need to start seeing movement, better control of the ball, better use of the ball, better choices. We need to see them being fitter. We need to see players responding to what he's trying to do. Andy Halliday's tactic thing was interesting. I don't agree with it entirely. At times when we're doing things wrong, I think he's correct. It is too straight-lined and it's difficult to play about in. But I don't genuinely think that's how we're trying to set up. He said that the wing-backs aren't inverted. Our wing-backs are inverted when it's working, when it's looking nice. This has been the problem, though. And it's what I said last night. This Rangers team so far, aside of Pilsen, where they were pretty decent for it, majority of the game, 60, 70 minutes, we've only seen bursts of 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And when it looks nice, it does look nice, Kenny, at times. And as I said, that 10, 15-minute spell last night when Danilo came on kind of triggered a lot better play. from throughout the whole team. Rothwell then coming on, they controlled the ball and knocked it about a lot better. That's the kind of control we need to have from the start of games. But I just don't. If that doesn't get fixed, it's not going to get better quickly, Kenny, being the kind of point to repeat myself. But I want to see improvements. Mendy's coming in now, Kenny, at centre-back. See, for you, and I think I know the answer to this, would you put him straight in next to Giga, given how John Souttar has been on the ball and positionally, I think, and decision-making, I think he's been too much risk rather than reward. But defensively, at times, he's actually defended moments really well, which people will criticise, understand that. And I think there's two sides to it. On the ball, I don't think he's anywhere near good enough, and he actually scares me a wee bit when he has it. But defending-wise, blocking shots, headers, defensively, I quite trust him that way, and I think he's good at it. But with Mendy coming in, would he change shape? Would he go to change formation? Formation was never really an issue. He did change it before, and I know he's been labelled with it, but he has changed it before. Do you think he would change? Go to a 3? Do you think he's just coming straight in to replace Souttar? Do you think Giga's performances have been good enough for him to be in defence, which I think maybe they have been? But how do you see Mendy coming in and changing that? Chris Jack reporting earlier on that deal's all but done on his Rangers review update tonight. £2 million, 4-year deal with an option. Does he come straight into your team? He lacks experience.
It's a very difficult question to answer because I don't know the player at all. I have no idea how good he is. But on the basis of what I've watched so far, yeah, I'd be inclined to take John Souttar out of the left-hand side for a start, because I just feel that the balance isn't right on that left-hand side of the defence at all. And, you have to get targeted last night, and it kind of exposed the weakness on the left-hand side that their manager had obviously seen and fully utilised to their benefit last night. I don't know, Steve, if I would play the boy or not, because frankly, I have no idea how good he is. I'm hoping he's a tidy player. I know he's a big lumpier lad. He's a big strong guy and stuff like that. But how good he is defensively, how good he is going forward, I genuinely have no idea. I know his stats are decent. But on the basis that I think that John Souttar has played every single game, basically in pre-season as well, I'd at least be giving him a rest, put it that way. But it's a tough one because I genuinely can't answer it with any great authority, because I just don't know this boy at all, mate. So it's a tough one.
Manny Fernandez is also sitting there, which we spent a lot of money on, £3 million upwards on him, another £2 million plus on Mendy. These aren't, the other side of me says, why don't we just spend £5 million on a first team starter and understand what we're trying to do? But it's difficult if you see the defenders, doing what they're doing at times, and we have these players sitting there. Why wouldn't they just go and spend that on one and bring in somebody? The cynical side of me says we're going to need to wait and see. Kenny, I said to you last week, a left back was really important in this team immediately, and I think when you seen how it functions, that was really important. I watched it last night. I watched it on Saturday, and 9 is massively important in this team, like ridiculously important when you think about link up, when you think about what they bring in order to make others function. We don't have our kind of troubles to seek as such, like in needing another 9. Cyril Dessers is due a scan on potential ankle damage, which I've got to be honest with you, I'm a wee bit annoyed about. He went down theatrically and he's almost more or less caused it himself from a wee poke in the eye, and it frustrates me about the big guy. This is what I was talking about when I was giving him so much stick against Pilsen in the first game. For the first 10 minutes I was moaning because he goes down all the time, and that frustrates me for such a big guy. I want to see more, but he's ended up in a situation where he might be out now for weeks in time. Egerman was the one that I wanted to be a 9 in this situation. I think he can hold up the ball. I think he can bring players in. I think he offers the running that maybe the others don't want positionally, but he's quite lazy at times. So where do you where do you go next? If it's a centre back, Mendy come in, that's fine. Do you go left? Do you go striker? We need them both.
We need them both. We need them both before the Bruges game, mate. That's what I would say. The number 9, if you like, is an absolute must for me. I know you're a fan of Danilo, and I know he did come on and do quite well last night, but I think his lack of pace.
He's not consistent enough, Kenny. See, as a sub, sometimes he comes on and does well, and he'll start and score a goal. But the problem is he links it up but doesn't score. Dessers can't link it up but does score more than anybody else. If you could merge the good parts together, you would. But I'm with you on Danilo. As much as I like Danny, he's not been consistent enough throughout. We're not creating enough for him throughout. I mean, he should have been rolled in a couple of times last night, and we could actually have judged him on getting a chance away. He was involved in the equaliser and things. But I'm with you. As much as I like him, which is fine, I've no problem with that. I'm not blind to him not being up to where we need to be also.
For me, Danilo's more of a penalty box striker, mate. He would look better in a two-man up front system. Cyril Dessers is Cyril Dessers. We've discussed him since the day we started this pod, and I can't be bothered talking about him anymore, mate. Honestly, he is what he is. We know what he is, and he's capable of playing out his skin at sometimes and then looking as if he's never seen a football at others. We know that. Igaman, I absolutely adore, but the situation that we find ourselves in is that the left back is probably more important at the minute, I think, because if you watch Yefty last night, I thought he was really a real weak link last night in the team, a really poor weak link. And as I say, I thought he was targeted big time. But a number 9 that is an upgrade on Dessers and Dessers, I managed to put the two of them together there. Dessers and Danilo is an absolute must as well, mate. I think that's what we need to do is if we're, and I don't like using this kind of term, but if we're going to go out and get a marquee signing, if you like, then that number 9 that's going to be your first pick every single week is probably the one that I would like to see. Go and splash a bit of cash on a top, as a top level as we can afford, put it that way, because I think it's a must.
A lot of people talking about Miovski in the comments. I seen a comment earlier on saying that he would be available for 3 million. I think, look, given what Miovski done for Aberdeen, the way he played for them and his ability to drop in, link play. I remember at Pittodrie him doing that and us running from deep, and I think it was a 1-1 draw that day. He really troubled us, and if he can do that, then I think that he would be the type of player that would welcome, as would Turgeman be, in the way that he plays and his kind of style. I do think we need that 9 to click. But Kenny, we've signed 10 players already. 7 of the old guard started last night, who, by the way, we wonder why we aren't performing. These guys have continually let us down for years and years. That shouldn't be forgotten. And when I talk about the inability to play passes and everything else, that's, I think, why. So it'll be interesting to see where we go in this coming weeks. I still think we've got another 2 in us after Mendy. I really hope we do. We need a left back. Chris Jack reporting earlier on in the Rangers Review that there is no bids for Jeffy. That's another one that seems to be like Ridvan in Turkey. There's no bids for him either. Where reporting over there seems to say it's close and bids are coming. It's getting a wee bit frustrating that way, Kenny, where these bids aren't coming. We need players out so that we can move in. To get more players in. We all said we needed about 15 players this summer. We're at 10. There's still room for a couple more, absolutely. So we just need to wait and see how the coming weeks are going. But Chris's report earlier on was a wee bit frustrating that there is no bids for Yilmaz, there is no bids for Jeffy, there is no bids for anyone really. We need to start seeing that happen.
Of course we do. We've got about 10 players we want out the door, mate, and we're not getting any of them shifted. And you've just said it yourself there, the 7 or 8 players on last night that we have watched over the years, Stevie, that they're in previous squads. And I think that's where part of my both frustrations and my trying to be understanding and trying to be a little bit more patient is, listen, we've watched a lot of these guys under 4 different managers, and they're incapable of playing any formation particularly well. They will make the same mistakes over and over again. They'll all switch off. They'll all play safe. We know this, and this is again part of the culture that we're talking about. So it's very difficult for me at this minute in time to go all in on get him out. I just don't see the point until you actually see what his team's going to be like. On Yefty, yeah, it's Palmeiras or something like that. Is it that had made a phone call? Apparently, that's as far as it's went. The Yilmaz thing is just I mean, I don't even know what to say anymore with some guys like this. It's the same with guys like Ben Davis and others that you just look at and think, you've no future here. Why are you still here? Leon King's another one that's still kicking about, mate, that for me personally, I thought that should have been done and dusted quite a while ago. And I know it's difficult because of the money he's on here. And he is going to go down levels, isn't he? So it's very difficult. But that's probably more frustrating for me at this minute in time than the kind of slapdash performances we're watching and the harem scarum behind the sofa stuff that we had to witness last night. The fact that we are sitting there with probably somewhere in the region of, I don't know, about 200,000 quid a week sitting there that is surplus to requirement. It's a guess. I don't know if it is 200,000. It's just a guess, but it must be something like that we can't get off the wage bill. That's going to hinder us at some point. So we'll wait and see as this window draws closer to shutting what we're going to do. And can I just say, I've just noticed my old mate Tommy's in the comments. I hope you're well, Tommy boy. Good to see you.
Yeah, I think we'll end it there. 50 minutes, folks. We've been on. Don't want you to get bored of our voices. At least it was a wee bit more calmer than last night, that's for sure. This is what this pod is. It's honest. It's mates talking about Rangers, and we love the comments. We love all the interaction. Thousands again tuning in to watch us on a Wednesday evening. I need to get out of this room. It's about 1,000,000 degrees and I'm running out of water. So this is why we're ending. Kenny, thank you as ever. We will be reporting from Bruges, myself and Derek, at the weekend from Alloa. Thank you, mate, as ever.
No, thanks for having me on, Stevie. Thoroughly, and I'm going to say enjoyed that, but you know what I mean. I'm away. Wipe the sweat from me here, mate. It is roasting, isn't it? It's unbelievable.
It certainly is. That's for sure, folks. Thank you so much to everyone that's joined in and viewed and all the comments and everything. We love the interaction, so thank you very much. Please, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe what we do. It really helps us. Get your comments in, disagree, agree. Keep it civil. We like it when it's civil. When it's not, just delete it and move on. So we'll try and go with that. We will be back on Friday night. We'll report from the press conference. Hopefully I'll get along to press conference this week. And we'll see what the manager's got to say. I do have a few questions and there's a lot to ask him, but the difference, a lot of people saying you need to go and tell him this, you need to tell him this. That's not how it works at a press conference, folks, unfortunately. I would love to go in there. I would have told Philip Clement a few things, but it's not how it works. We would ask him. We would certainly ask him things about tactics and things like that, and fans' concerns. I don't think that's unreasonable to ask those that do go along. But it's not like we can stand and shout at him and tell him this is all rubbish and it doesn't work. But we'll have all that on Friday for you. There will be another First and Favourites out tomorrow as well. Is it First and Favourites? Derek and David, it might be the book club one. I'll need to double check that, but that'll be out for members tomorrow. If you want to become a member on YouTube, you can sign up and join on our YouTube page from as little as 99 pence to help support the podcast. It's unbelievable how well it's doing. Well over 550 odd members now. So really appreciate everyone's support. It's been fantastic. But yes, as I said, please have a fantastic evening, folks. Difficult pod. Look, see, when it's not all sunny and shiny outside, it's difficult. And I mean that in a football term. Actually, there is nice weather out there today. But I mean in a football sense, what do we come on and say? Try and paint it all rosy. Try and be a bit of context for everything, and try and be balanced a wee bit. We try our best. But I hope you all enjoyed it anyway and appreciate it. Have a nice night, folks. Take care, and we'll see you all again.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.